Coronation Street revisited John Stape's reign of terror in tonight's episode following Summer Spellman's release. Summer was locked up and awaiting trial for Theo Silverton's murder, a crime she didn't commit. Tyrone Dobbs was able to secure her release when he finally told police that he had seen both her and Theo on the night of his death, proving that she could not have killed him. Summer is still furious, however, given the traumatic nature of her time in prison and the fact that she was hospitalized when she deliberately turned off her insulin pump. Tonight's episode saw Summer find an unlikely confidant in Fizz Dobbs, who recalled the time she was falsely imprisoned for a series of murders committed by her husband at the time, John. The episode began with Summer confronting Tyrone at the garage, saying she went through hell when he could have cleared her name sooner. He apologized, but Summer became increasingly irate before Kevin Webster intervened, saying her outburst would not change anything. She told Tyrone to stay away from her before storming off, later having a heart-to-heart with Fizz about their respective ordeals in prison. Fizz visited the shop where Summer was working, and there was immediate tension, but Fizz broke the ice by offering support. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to talk to, I just wondered how you're keeping," she asked Summer, who said she would be a lot better if Tyrone had told the truth sooner. Fizz empathized with her, assuring Summer that it gets easier despite going to prison. "Messing with your head. All you want to do when you're out is get back home and get back to normal. Trouble is you don't know what normal is," she continued. Summer asked when Fizz went to prison, to which she said it was a long story and that she was there for her if she ever wanted to talk to her. John's crimes took place in 2011. When he killed his ex-colleague Colin Fishwick and assumed his identity, hiding his body under the underworld factory. He then killed Charlotte Hoyle when she found out about his identity theft and murdered Colin's mother, Joy Fishwick, when she discovered the truth about what happened to her son. John also kidnapped Rosie Webster following his affair with her, as well as Chesney Brown and Charlotte's parents, to prevent the truth of his crimes from coming out. When trying to flee the cobbles, he crashed his car into a lorry, dying in the hospital from his injuries shortly after clearing Fizz's name. The cobbled streets of Weatherfield have never been strangers to secrets, but few stories have lingered in the shadows, quite like the one now resurfacing, 15 years after it was first buried. With Summer Spellman's unexpected return, Coronation Street is once again pulling viewers into a web of history, consequence, and emotional reckoning that no one saw coming. Summer's arrival back on the street was meant to be quiet, almost uneventful. A familiar face returning home, trying to rebuild stability after time away. But Weatherfield has a way of refusing to let the past stay buried. And as Summer steps back into her old routines, she unknowingly triggers something far bigger, something that began long before she ever understood the weight of the street's darker memories. 15 years ago, a storyline unfolded that at the time seemed contained, a conflict, a betrayal, and a decision made in haste that rippled through a small group of residents. Back then, it was quickly overshadowed by other dramatic arcs, as Weatherfield moved on as it always does. But the truth, as fans are now discovering, is that nothing in Coronation Street truly disappears. It just waits. Summer's return acts like a key turning in a long-locked door. It begins subtly. A passing comment overheard at the cafe, a familiar name mentioned in conversation that causes an older resident to freeze mid-sentence. Then more pointed connections emerge. Old photographs resurfacing, a forgotten letter tucked away in a drawer, and a name that once carried weight slowly returning to everyday speech. For Summer, these moments feel disconnected at first. She is focused on her present, rebuilding relationships, finding her footing, and trying to move forward. But Weatherfield has a way of folding timelines into one another. The past and present do not stay separate for long. The storyline from 15 years ago, once thought resolved, centers around a decision that altered the lives of several families. At the time, the consequences were softened by distance and time. But now, as Summer unknowingly steps into its orbit, the emotional impact begins to sharpen again. What was once dismissed as old history becomes painfully relevant. One of the most compelling aspects of this revisited arc is how it reframes the characters involved. People who were once seen as secondary players in an old drama are now revealed to have carried its weight silently for years. The return of Summer acts not just as a trigger, but as a mirror, reflecting how much has been left unsaid in Weatherfield for over a decade. Tension builds when Summer stumbles upon inconsistencies in stories she thought she understood. A version of events she had accepted no longer aligns with what she is hearing now. The contradictions are small at first, but they grow impossible to ignore. And in true Coronation Street fashion, curiosity quickly turns into determination. As she digs deeper, Summer finds herself drawn into conversations no one else wants to have. Older residents become evasive. Some change the subject. Others shut down entirely. But the silence itself becomes more revealing than any confession. It suggests that the truth was never fully dealt with. It was simply buried under the everyday rhythm of the street. Meanwhile, viewers are treated to a slow reconstruction of the original storyline, not as a flashback, but through fragments, memories, reactions, and emotional echoes. This storytelling approach allows the past to feel alive without ever fully leaving the present. It also deepens the sense of realism that Coronation Street has always been known for. That time doesn't heal everything. It just redistributes it. Summer's emotional journey becomes central to the unfolding drama. What begins as curiosity evolves into discomfort, and eventually into a personal conflict about whether some truths are better left untouched. She is forced to question not only what happened 15 years ago, but also why it was allowed to fade away without resolution. The street itself seems to respond to the resurfacing tension. Familiar locations, Roy's rolls, the Rover's return, the quiet corners of the cobbles, take on a heavier atmosphere. Conversations feel loaded with meaning. Even ordinary interactions carry the suggestion that something unspoken is hovering just beneath the surface. As the storyline escalates, long-standing relationships are tested. Alliances form and fracture as people take sides between preserving the past and exposing it. Some believe reopening old wounds will only cause harm. Others argue that healing was never truly possible without honesty. Summer finds herself at the center of this divide, not because she intended to be, but because she represents something the past cannot ignore: change. Her presence disrupts the fragile balance that had been maintained for years. What makes this revival particularly compelling is its emotional complexity. It is not simply about uncovering a hidden truth. It is about understanding why that truth was hidden in the first place and what it cost those who carried it. As whispers grow louder and the pieces of the old story begin to align, Weatherfield prepares for another reckoning. And Summer, caught between history and present-day reality, must decide how far she is willing to go to uncover what really happened all those years ago. Because in Coronation Street, the past is never truly gone. It always finds its way back home. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Coronation Street Scoop News Update.